Well, hello, Naomi. Welcome to Artist
Hi.
Spotlight 2020 with Millstream Arts Festival and with the Downtown St. Cloud Art Crawl. I'm really happy to have you here. This has been a great collaboration with the Downtown Art Crawl because I've
Yes.
gotten to meet artists that I didn't know were making and creating in St. Cloud, and I thought I knew every artist in St. Cloud. So this has been quite a treat, and I'm looking forward to getting to know you better.
Thank
So
you.
with that, could you share who you are, what you do with us today?
Sure. My name is Naomi Hart. I am an encaustic mixed media artist.
Mhm.
Encaustic is kind of a lesser known medium. It's actually in my arena involves painting with hot wax, to put it simply. So I mix a lot of other media and genres of working within that. So I say I'm an encaustic artist, but I'm definitely a mixed media artist.
Could you tell us a little bit about your background? Encaustic art thank you for describing it, first of all,
Right.
because it is definitely something that a lot of people don't know. I teach future art educators, and I always tell them to look up what encaustic is because it
Yeah.
always shows up on their content test.
Uh,
What is encaustic painting? So,
huh.
it is something that a lot of people don't know about. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. Could you tell a little bit about your background, how you found painting, encaustic painting, or
Sure.
art in general?
I've been an artist my whole life. I had grew up in a real progressive home where they encouraged whatever things that you were good at. In most of my siblings' cases, it was music. In my case, it was visual arts. So I was always had sketchbooks, always had whatever art media I wanted to play with. And it wasn't until really later in my life, in my 40s, that I went back to school and pursued a degree. At that time and throughout most of my life, I was pretty enamored with printmaking. And so my focus throughout school was in printmaking. And you can see the influence of that in my artwork quite a bit. Even today, I work in print media and apply that into my encaustic work as much as I can. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So um, in a world right now where everyone's trying to stand out and everybody is, notice me, notice my work, what is one thing you would like people to know about your art? That the one thing you want them to take away?
That's a tough question. I in my tagline is that I'm a storyteller and a time traveler,
Mm,
and I think that that's something that the storytelling aspect of my work is something that really draws people in. I grew up with a few different cultural influences in my life, and storytelling was always a really important part of that. And it comes through in my work. I want it to come through in my work. And I think that people are drawn into the artwork and can find their own story within that work. And that's what really appeals to me, is when people find themselves within the artwork. So,
oh, wonderful, the storytelling. I am looking forward to hearing those stories. So let's look at some of your work. Let's look at
sure.
some of your work for those stories. Or this first piece here.
Yeah, this piece is called One Fatal Dream. It's an early piece and early in my exploration of encaustics. And this actually is a piece that brings printmaking into my work. So the foundation is an intaglio print, or an
Mm,
etching,
mm-hmm.
that's used as a substrate on the panel. And then drawings and hot wax are applied over the surface of that. And this is actually an area that I'm going back into this fall for a new body of work that I'm bringing. So that's why this piece was important. And I always go back to this piece. This is actually probably one of my anybody who sees my work, this is one of their favorites. And people are always, do more like this, do more like this. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it starts with the intaglio etchings. So
Wow, there's a lot happening here, not only
yeah,
with the processes, but the imagery
sure.
and the stories in here.
Sure.
Um,
I can talk a little bit about where my imagery springs from. I'm a survivor of domestic violence and drug abuse, and I lost a child
Mm,
to death at 6 months old, and that experience propelled me into finding sobriety and finding the strength to leave the environment that I was living in. And
mm,
I have had to manage my own mental health and mental health wellness since really my whole life. And so
mhm.
my work really springs from that idea that there's this internal dialogue that doesn't necessarily relate to your perceived external dialogue. And that's the story that comes through in a lot of my work, I think, and indeed what most people can relate to through it, because we all have
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. Absolutely. Art is such a healing thing for many,
Yeah,
and that's something I share with my students a lot is this that art can be that for many people, and then they find their story in it also
yeah,
and can see themselves like you
yeah.
spoke of. All right, and I think the next few of these are about the process, which I think is really important also.
Yeah, this piece is actually hanging behind me. I don't know if you can see
Oh,
it,
oh,
but
yes, yes,
this is called. Oh, I'm having to draw up names. Let's see. All My Tomorrows is this one.
yes. That's what it.
Um,
Yep.
a, a lot of times you'll find symbolism within my work. Especially, I tend to flee to nature for healing, for quieting my spirit and being able to listen outside of that internal chaos that I have, or even in the chaos of man, to the chaos within nature is a story, and it's a peaceful story. So a lot of the imagery that you'll see in the artwork is symbolism. The nuthatch encourages us to bring our dream life into our real life. And so the things that you imagine for yourself can become what you really are living. So that's what this piece is. And it's titled All My Tomorrows.
Beautiful. The
Thank
next
you.
piece is Seeker.
This is a fun one. Gosh, I'm trying to draw back into what the symbolism of this one was. Again, I'm always on this vision quest for my own life in finding a way to be solidly within the world and yet embracing the fantasy of life.
Hmm.
And I think that comes through in Seeker quite a bit. It's a mishmash of so many interesting things and symbolism too. So this is I can talk a little bit about process. This I
Yes.
crackled the wax intentionally, and this is
Hmm.
one. Sometimes I will simply draw on a wood panel, and then layer and layer with encaustic, and that's what this is. The encaustic, one of the allures is that every nuance that I import into any piece is visible. It's a very translucent and easily manipulated medium, and so even the grain of the wood you can see through the drawing, through the wax, through everything. And so whatever I put in each layer, you can see it's really fun to work with.
Wow, I'm glad you mentioned that. That was definitely something I was going to ask about, that texture. It's
Mm.
really interesting. The next one is Soothsayer. Soothsayer.
Yes, soothsayer.
Soothsayer.
This
There it
is
is.
the
Yes.
chickadee. Yeah, the chickadee. The chickadee is the soothsayer. Whenever you're
Oh,
in the woods, the chickadee is the one that's going to tell you the truth.
oh.
And you'll find in my work a lot of references to home. Um, we create in our mind from early childhood this ideal of home, and it evolves and it changes, but you always kind of hold to this false ideal of what home is, and it can be the most comforting place that you've ever experienced, and it also can be a place of darkness and evil. And so I reference home a lot as a springboard into other things. So, and definitely have references to the spirit through the use of sacred geometry or geometric imagery too. So all of it's hand drawn. All my stencils I hand cut, I hand draw. All my
Oh.
it is super anal.
Wow. Wow. So is the stencil then is applied with a printmaking process then?
No, in this particular image, it's a serral transfer, which is a process that I've created myself. So it's a transfer method, but it's still hand drawn right on the piece.
Wow. Wow.
I also use text a lot in my work. I always have. And I find that text kind of references humanity to me, our just innate need for relationship and how that breaks down through language. And so I use text in there. It isn't necessarily intended to be read, but I find that viewers always read it. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
fun.
Absolutely. Wow. The next one is red wool sweater. The red wool sweater.
This is another tribute to home. It's a
Mm.
somewhat of a reference to my mother. And definitely the sparrow is the lowliest, considered the lowliest of creatures, and yet noticed and present and, very personal to humanity. And my mom passed away 2 years ago, and this one kind of just symbolizes her influence on me and in both warmth and challenges. So,
Mm.
and she always
So,
wore a red wool sweater.
oh, that is a sweet reference there.
Yeah, yeah,
Very sweet. So people can purchase work from you at your
yes.
website,
Hmm. Yep,
naomi4art.com. And on there they can view these pieces and look at others of your work also.
absolutely.
Okay.
I also make prints of my work at several different levels in an attempt to make the work accessible.
Oh, sure.
It's a very time sensitive medium, meaning that, for example, a piece like the one that we're looking at can have 50 or 60 or more hours into it. So the
Oh, wow.
individual original pieces can be pretty pricey. So I try to keep them accessible through other ways. So I do a
Yeah,
lot of
well,
prints.
your time is, very valuable and
Yeah.
worth every penny because they are beautiful. And and the processes with them are so unique and you know I hope that people look into what this encaustic is or or look it up a little bit or because it is in the printmaking and the intaglio, all those details are so
Hmm.
time consuming
Yeah.
and are thoughtful. So I
Well,
hope people look into it.
the work itself is really fun too. Like if you get a chance to see it in a gallery, it's an experience. When you walk in the room, you feel something, and that's really exciting to me. I like hearing that.
Yes. Oh gosh, and hearing the stories behind them, there's more. You feel so much more too. So this is We Planted Poppies. Together we planted
Oh,
poppies.
together we planted poppies. Again, this is a tribute to my mom. This original piece sold, but I do have prints available. Um, my mom was just a lover of poppies, and so
Mm.
it's just a tribute to her. In this case, I was experimenting with some silk screen printing or a silk transfer process, and that is the foundation of this piece. And then it's painted with wax and carandiache on the top of it, just playing with some new media that had been put in my hand. So love this
Wow.
one.
Yes, the texture is so evident. Beautiful.
I think
Um,
that in this one especially, you see how much memory plays a part in my work too. Like you just get drawn into the idea of a warm summer day and the poppies blooming, and that you get that memory of it. I like that.
mhm. The warmth, yes, definitely. Comfort in the shadows.
This is also an exploration into the silk process. And using fabric, which is another new direction that I'm going. I'm playing around with fabric a little bit, and the cocoon also is a image that comes up repeatedly in my work for a couple of different reasons. Mostly, the idea of transformation and surrendering to process in order to transform is a big part of my work. So that's why the cocoons come through. So.
Hmm. I think I have a few of the songbird series here next.
Hmm.
Some of your
This is
songbirds.
Yep, this is a series that is the work that I've been doing in shelter. When I began Shelter in Place, I was about a 5-hour drive away from my Encaustic studio and dealing with, you know, the quick isolation that we all did when things were shut down, and then the extensive long term. I don't know, in any other situation, 4 months wouldn't seem long term, right? But it felt really
Hmm.
long term. And I started this series on paper in response to an invitation to present a piece. Actually, it got accepted in a gallery show that will be in Chicago next year or the year after, I can't remember.
Oh,
And because
wonderful.
of that one piece, I sprang into doing a series, and I hope to accomplish maybe 40 or 50 of these. They're all quick. They're 10 by 10 or 12 by 12. I think 10 by 10 pieces of paper. So, and
Hmm.
I've been drawing on them and focusing on the songbirds, and then doing the other processes that I enjoy. The stenciling and the hot wax goes on.
Mm, that's what I was wondering about the background. Is that stenciling process that
Yeah.
you? Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
And the bird is hand drawn.
Yep. Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank
Hmm.
you. I got to
No.
come up with names for them all yet. They're all still pretty new. So I've
Hmm.
got probably a dozen of them in the works now. And these are the closest to being complete that I've got. So I just thought it'd be fun to show them and just see what kind of
Absolutely.
where I'm working and working quickly and working away from the studio. So I now have regained access to the studio, but I have limited time because there are several of us that use the studio and we're overlapping, or we can't be in at the same time because of COVID. So our
Hmm.
time is limited.
Yep, that makes sense. The
Yep.
so these songbirds you mentioned they were going to be possibly in an exhibit coming up. Is Are these also available for purchase? People could purchase
Yep, they
these
sure
now?
are. Yeah,
Okay.
they're not available on the website yet. I've got to just get it updated. I'll probably try to get that by the end of September. But yeah, just reach out to me. I've been posting them on my Instagram as I get them developing and showing step by step stages that they're going through and things like that. So it's fun, fresh
Okay.
work for me. It's new to be working on paper like this, so it's fun.
Well, we'll make sure we share with our audience members your Instagram also,
Thank you.
something they can click on and see the process because it is like you've talked about quite intensive with that. So the work we have letters from home
Oh yeah.
here.
This is a newer piece that I think last year was created for a show. Again, the reference to home and it not always being, it's a wily thing. It's not always
Mm,
what you think it's going to be, you know. And a lot of times, I'm going to mention this, but I actually don't have the poem in front of me. But a lot of times I'll write in response to my work, and there is a poem that goes along with this piece about the expectations of letters from home and how you just eventually change your expectations. So that's what this
oh,
is about.
wonderful. And the last one we have is a work in progress.
Yep. So this is an early exploration into works on fabric. And it wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't entirely successful, but it wasn't a failure either. So I'm super excited about it. And I think that I can redeem this piece. So I'm hanging on to it and I've been showing it quite a bit. This is stretched burlap, and I'm actually going to unstretch the burlap and try to mount it a different way because the wax is so heavy. It's just failed to stay tight, which is the failure aspect of it.
Oh,
But the drawing is on rice paper and was imported into the wax through techniques that I've developed for my work. And then some Caran d'Ache work was, which is a wax crayon, was worked over the top of that. And there's still a lot of things that I want to do to this piece, but this is sort of the direction that I'm going for a exhibition that's going to be occurring at the end of next year into 2022. And the work is going to focus on the idea of repair as a radical act. We talk a lot about sustainability, and I'm kind of considering the idea of repair as being more important than sustainability. So, especially in the arena of mental health and mental health stigmas. So, I have a lot. I'm in the early stages of research. I'm super excited about drawing that work together. So,
Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that
of
with us.
course.
Such beautiful work and very engaged. I'm so engaged in that, which I'm sure our audience was also
Thank you so
hearing
much.
about the stories with them. And I know you shared a little bit about the about how your work has changed during this time, during shelter in place, and
Sure.
is there anything else that has changed in your practice that you've noticed during this time?
Um, uh, I feel differently about it, I think. And I probably haven't quite sorted that out yet. I feel a little bit more like time is fleeting. I feel a
Mm,
little more anxious about getting to the creating of it. I have a lot piled inside and I just need to get to it. So, yeah,
mm,
come the end of September, I'm taking a hiatus from working for money and I'm just going to start working for art. So, we'll see
wow.
how the fall brings work time in the studio. So, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, well, I hope you share with us on your Instagram. We have up here for
Yeah,
people to reach out
absolutely.
and and we can see that hiatus and see that process
Yeah, thank you
for
so
you.
much.
Is that connected to a dream project possibly?
Uh, Not necessarily, although yeah, I have got dream projects for sure. I would like my one of my biggest dreams is to figure out how to create installation using hot wax and community. So I've got this vision for a piece, and I've written a few grants that haven't gone anywhere yet. I'm kind of pulling back and rethinking, starting with a community. So I'm trying to identify a community. I have a show coming up in March of 2021, and I am trying to develop audience response to that in order to direct some more direct engagement with audience. So, and then move from that into possibly working with a community to develop a installation project. So, we'll see. That's the dream.
Wow. Oh, wow. I can't wait. That sounds really
Thank you.
exciting.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that. That's um wonderful. And the piece with that, after, shelter in place, something like that, to create
Yeah.
that community around a piece is really
Yeah.
exciting
Yeah.
also.
Yeah.
And
I
not
think
a
it
lot
could
of
be really
people do
fun.
your process also. So even sharing that with a community is really beneficial, I'd say, for a
Yeah.
lot of people. Hmm.
Yep, it's really educational. Encaustic is an ancient art form that very little is known about. And so it's fun to be able to educate people about it as you go. And it's so much fun to play with. So much fun.
Wow. Oh, that is exciting. Is there anything, as we close up here, is there anything else you'd like to share or some last pieces you would like to share with our audience today?
I can't think of anything. Sorry.
No.
I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to just be able to talk about the work. It goes up in a gallery, and you don't always get the chance to get in front of people and get to share where it springs from inside you. It's very personal. It's very exciting to me to get the chance to talk about it. So thank you so much. I appreciate the format.
You're very welcome. I am so glad that that you agreed to be a part of our Artist Spotlight 2020 and share this. It's wonderful to see all the unique art that happens in our community, and the
Yeah.
stories around those art is so important for all of us to
Yep.
hear, and how we connect our lives to those stories also.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Naomi, for your time, and I hope to meet you soon.
Thank you so much. Take
Take
care.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.